Hello, welcome to Low Code Campfire. This is the edition 194 for May 9, 2025, and it is an Open Lines Friday. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plantin App, joined capably by Patrick Anderson, Technical Success Manager for Plantin App. And we will get into, well, whatever you want to get into. It is this Low Code Campfire is an event that we do most Fridays, and we get together and do just a roundtable on techniques and challenges and experiences. This is an all skill levels welcome event. We'd like to help you along on your low code Plantin App journey. We record all of these episodes and put them on YouTube on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/plantinap, which you can get to by that QR code or just directly to that URL. We do advise that you subscribe and hit the alarm bell so that you know when we release new content. Usually it happens in the same afternoon that we'll post this later this afternoon. Today, this is the agenda generally that we'll run. We stop and say hello because we're a friendly group, and then we always start with first call. Anything you came to the meeting and wanted to talk about, anything that you've submitted in advance, you can submit things in advance just by sending an email to support@plantinap.com. After an hour or so, we'll go into our afterglow segment, and that's where we turn off the recording and just hang out for a few more minutes and talk tech and vacations and motorcycles, anything you want to talk about. Anyway, do jump in and engage and show and tell with us. Yeah, there's the QR code. You can submit things in advance through that QR code or support@plantinap.com. Hello, all.
Hello.
Happy Friday.
Good morning.
Yes. Happy Friday.
Good morning.
Did anyone come with something that you'd like to talk about first? While you think about that, I will tell you we've got some stuff to talk about for 127 and some organizational notes and techniques to show off that I didn't get to last week. So lots of stuff going on, but happy to talk. Start where you want to start.
Go for it.
All right, here we go. The first one is a small change in plans. The Low Code Cafe, we've been doing that every 2 weeks. We're going to switch that to a monthly schedule, at least as a general framework. We've been trying to do topics that are timely for specific customers. So rather than trying to make sure that we're hitting a schedule, we want to make sure that we're providing the information that you want. So we might do more frequently, but just in general, expect to see one once a month. So watch your email for the announcements for those. Another one that we mentioned in the Afterglow segment last week, but Patrick, this is his last official Low Code Campfire with us as an employee of Plantin App. He's going to switch sides of the fence and will be employed on the client side of Plantin App. So that's a change for us. And those two topics might be interrelated a little bit. And it's awfully helpful when Patrick has done the low code cafes in the past. It takes some effort to put them on and research. And so we're going to miss him on that one. So right now we have our beta release, version 1.27 is out, and release candidate number 1. And it's going pretty well. Those of you who have downloaded and installed version 127 will get an email from me sometime later today that one of the issues that we've encountered has to do with license refresh, and I'll just mention it here, a way that you can avoid the issue. But we're going to be releasing a a software change next week that will demonstrate, or rather resolve the issue, but this actually demonstrates the issue pretty well. We're seeing this confusing message where our in configuration settings general that this low-code engineer license has expired on May 27, which of course hasn't arrived yet. And the resolution is just click the refresh button. And actually, I'll just kind of show this. It says it's available in 20 seconds. What the team has advised me is that you want to click this and do the refresh right at when it's next available. So we'll try and catch it there. Now we've caught it. This now went from red to black. It's updated as it's expected. So this issue is it's just failing to go out and phone home and refresh, and it's kind of ugly if it doesn't get refreshed. So because then you have to go in and do that manual activation. So my advice to you, if you're running version 1.27, do this refresh function, and that'll make sure that you don't run into any issues between now and next week when we release the software patch. And if you do run into issues, well, we'll always take a support email or ticket. Any questions on that one? Okay. We move on. I'm going to go out and check our website. I don't believe we have any new reports of other issues. The things that, and let's get signed in here. Yeah. So I just saw I'm supposed to be doing some testing to make sure this issue that I had previously reported is resolved. But again, if you're doing any testing, come out to 127 beta and let us know anything that you find or want to give us feedback on. We'll look at those. Next. I had the opportunity to do some Campfire contributions, and so I'll just point them out in case they're of help to anyone else. So one was a loading animation. So watch this. If you want to build in a little bit of delay or just do a little bit of branding, that loading animation is available for any image that you want to do. It's some simple HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and I'll show it here in a second. But whatever image that you give to it, it will do a grayscale and then fill like that, and then move on to whatever page that you tell it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, it is. It's cool.
It is cool.
You can control the speed. For example, I have a fast loading version. So see, we got a parameter here, load time 3, so it changes the speed, or a slow version, 20 seconds. You can control how much delay you want to build into the process. I'm using it for a branding kind of thing. I just want to splash my logo up there at a key spot, and so it doesn't need to be on the screen. I mean, there's no technical reason. I don't need a delay in the process, but I just wanted to pop it up there. Anyway, if you're logged in, you can get this button. Oh, it says I'm not logged in, so I can't get the button. Let's go ahead and get logged into Campfire here.
Quick question.
Yes.
The concept here is that you have a form on a page that creates an animation. Is that it, or is this part of another form, or part of a form that does something?
That animation, I mean, I'm going to show it off here in a second. This, you can use this exact form. You basically, the form, I've created a single purpose form that does the animation and then moves on to redirect you wherever you want to go. So I've built a reusable page, but you could put that animation anywhere, on a working page, whatever you want to do. So
Got it.
the design here is, in my case, I have an image file. It's getting loaded with, let's see, I'm actually loading it from the events. So the image file is just getting an image from my site. So I've got the Plant App logo of a particular size that I'm putting into that image file. The image file field. The loading animation is, whoops, sorry, let me get positioned here. So it's some HTML that's loading the image file and creating a black and white overlay with it as well, the same size. I'm forcing all this to be into 300 pixels. So you can play with that. And then there's some style stuff that goes on that does image fill and defines the overlay, and let's see, the slide reveal. I think this is where all the action is happening to cause it to reveal that over a period of time. And then I'm sorry, I had another use for load time here. We'll find it here in a second. Here, this is the action. The animation is slide reveal using load time of 5 seconds. So it defaults to 5, but whatever load time you provide. So this would be, whether I did it in 20 seconds or 3 seconds, but defaults to 5. So this is where the magic happens right here. And then I also am using that same load time to create a script to refer me to the return URL. So this one is hard coded it's defaults to going to my step 2 of my thing. So this is how I'm stepping into the next page, but you could put any return URL onto it. And so then this page becomes reusable as a splash screen. And if anyone had any doubt in their mind at all, this was completely done by my intern. Yeah, and then I have a little please wait underneath it. So for impact, then we have this please wait showing up here. The image displays, it goes to the return URL. So that's out there if anybody wants to throw an image at that, a different image, make use of it. Let's see. Another one is token evaluation in page titles. Notice that the page title of this is coming in with dynamic information. I'm user number 2, and it shows me the current time in my time zone. So there's a couple of pieces to this. If you're using the Plant App page builder theme, tokens in the title automatically resolve. So if you were to go to advanced, not advanced, in details, and put something here, a token here, it would resolve. But a client pointed out to us this last week, it was a thing on the community forum, that while most tokens resolve, for some reason, the user token is not available at the context. So user username or user ID wasn't resolving. He was using this to do language per user. So if a user had selected a particular language, he was putting the page title up based on the user ID. And I think in some distant version of DNN and action form that logic worked, but in the current version, user ID isn't available. So this is kind of showing all the workarounds. So again, if you're using Page Builder, you can put a token right here. It will work. For his particular case, you can, I also point out, you can use a script that is, if you replace it after the page loads, which this little script runs after the page load, at that point, user ID is available. And so you can do your user substitution work here in the page header tags. That will work. And then, so all that's kind of explained here. We have the script and where to put it and all. If you're using any other theme and it's not enabled for Lantern app tokens, you can edit the ASCX and put this into the ASCX. It'll register the my tokens, page tokens, and run them. So that's another way that you can enable them. Again, my tokens resolves just fine for most places, but if you needed them at the page level, then the theme needs to do this registration. I guess another small point is, notice here I've got a button, and when I click it, it will update it with the same information, current time. So showing that you can control using the same little bit of JavaScript, you can update your page title as people are interacting with your form. So you might have a stage, as they're working with the form, clicking buttons, doing things, it's possible to update the page title, and you might find that convenient. Anyway, anytime that clients are asking questions, I try to consider whether that would be useful to document. So that's how both of these things ended up on contributions.
Very nice, Dale.
Righty. Before I move on to another topic, anything? Yes, Matt, please.
Good morning, everybody. So speaking of loadings and animations and so on, I have got some very busy pages which take, well, it's always annoying when you have to wait for anything. So they take too long to load from, my perspective. Like, for instance, this one page I'm looking at has got like 6 tabs on it. 1, 2, 3 of the tabs underneath have got listings. I've got a parent tab, a parent form that loads a bunch of things and so on. So it takes a bit, a hot second, especially when you're doing an update and so on. So general question is, can you, and if so, how do you control what things get loaded when? So in the case of, let's say, a tab, several tabs with listings behind it, can I say, don't load this until something else happens? So the user experience for that main tab is more readily available.
So that's the, yes, I understand the question. There are options for that within tab, and unfortunately they worked in Bootstrap 3 and they don't work in Bootstrap 5, and we're working on that right now. So, but because of that, we can at least show some of some of the settings and what will work soon. So let's do a new one here.
Well, at least you're confirming something because I was playing with those settings and having no
Okay.
real results. But love to see just from your perspective. So when it does.
Great. So I'm just going to get myself a little test page here. So if we look at the settings for tabs, let's see. Actually, it's the settings for the listings. Let's do a little thing. Let's put my listing here, the listing into this tab and save it so it's behind. So now this user grid that was showing up down here is showing up in my listing. So notice that as it loads, just as the page loads, all the data is here. And so, and that's really the problem. And ideally, this would be deferred until you went to the tab, because if you if you had 8 different tabs with different listings on each one and they all load, it takes a long time. So looking at that in the advanced settings, there is a tabs integration. And so this is what we're trying to restore to operation. If you have this load when tab is activated, that would say it only would be initialized when somebody goes to the tab. And if they don't go to the tab, it doesn't load the data, and that saves the time, especially. And then it's, when you have something that takes 5 seconds to load, that just will save that from happening. So this would be the initial load happening, should control it. This would cause it to reactivate, refresh when somebody comes back to the tab. So if they're bouncing back and forth on different tabs on different on the same form, if changes over in one tab impact another tab, this one would be good to do that's intended to capture that scenario. And then this animation, yeah, I don't recall seeing this one work, so I'm not exactly sure what that one looks like. But these are the ones that you're going to care about for users.
Thank you. Follow-on question.
Yeah.
On a form, there's the cache, and settings down toward the bottom. There is the cache form initialization. How is that? Does that have any positive effect? Does it, in other words, work as expected? Do we know?
So this is a dark corner for me. I don't know that I've ever tried this. Anyone else?
I don't recall it.
Well, I've switched it on and it doesn't break anything. So that's a good thing.
You can't tell if it's helping.
No, because the pages are pretty heavy. I mean, if I did some isolation, I perhaps could see, but I just put it on kind of by default in all my settings for the reason that hopefully it does have a positive effect.
It seems like that there's potential for it to be problematic if you have events happening that need to, update when the form is initialized. But of course I don't understand exactly what it's doing. So, but.
Yeah, well, I'm with you.
Right. I kind of same with that would be my same concern that Patrick has. My if you're doing um, clicking it is probably safe in many instances, and if you turn it on during development and and the form does what you want to, it's probably just fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it may give a benefit, and it probably comes with a small amount of risk about that.
Okay. Well, so far it hasn't bitten me yet. So,
Mhm.
um,
I suppose remembering that you've turned it on is the challenge, right? When things go sideways 3 months
yeah,
from
correct. Um, so while we're on this topic and this page, don't leave yet. Um, the language on the include bootstrap is maybe a bit ambiguous. So plant an app using the plant an app theme. Um, this always comes in for new form defaulted to on. What is there Bootstrap 3 being used in a typical, say, a form? And or if it is being used, um, is Bootstrap 3 already being loaded by the plant and app theme? I've got it turned off. Typically what I do is I have a header, like a top logo form or whatever, and I put in font awesome Angular and well, I cache the field, but those are the two. I don't have Bootstrap on, and um, typically, and then for the other forms on the page, I leave those off because Angular and Font Awesome are already loaded. So the question is, on this particular topic, what's the necessity for Bootstrap 3? Do you use it in grids? Is it still kind of buried somewhere?
now.
Um,
Are you using Bootstrap 3 or Bootstrap 5 on your theme?
well, I'm using the Plant and App Bootstrap 5 theme.
Great. So this is where I'm going to miss Patrick, because I'm going to say something and then Patrick can correct me when I'm wrong. But this setting makes sense, and if you're using a Bootstrap 3 theme, this setting makes sense. And if you're using a Bootstrap 5 theme, and meaning particularly up here, if you're selecting a Bootstrap 5 template,
Right.
then my understanding is this is going to be ignored. That it's
Right.
not going to load Bootstrap 3 because Bootstrap 3 would be in conflict with Bootstrap 5. But this is a holdover from we in when we only supported Bootstrap 3. This setting allowed you to choose it for either you could load it as you do independently, or have this be on one form and all the other forms on the page could be off, and so then it doesn't even try to load it for those other so if you had 5 forms on the page all with this checked, it would load it once and try 4 more times, going through a little bit of effort to realize that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So you could turn it off. When we changed our model, when we introduced Bootstrap 5 support, our model says you're responsible for loading it, you the client or the theme, not us.
Mm-hmm.
So this setting then doesn't make any difference at all in that context. Did I come anywhere near close, Patrick?
Yeah, I think that sounds right. That's my understanding
Okay.
as well.
That's what I thought, and that's what I do. I turn it off because it doesn't appear to be needed.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to make sure that just to confirm.
And I would say these are all um, if you turn them off and they're needed, it's going to be very evident on the page, right? So if you were working in Bootstrap 3, you only had one form and you turned that thing off, the page wouldn't work right. Or if you turn off Font Awesome, you're all of a sudden you're not going to see some Font Awesome icons. If you've turned something off and you actually needed it, it's going to be very evident quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
So, I'm sorry, did we cover your topic?
You certainly did. Thank you.
I was going to just add then where I thought you were going when you started to talk about your heavy page was, maybe you wanted to provide some entertainment, some branding, whatever, while the page was loading. And I think this kind of thing could be adapted to that. Whoops, not that one. This, you could, for example, put a form like this on your page that would do this thing and kind of provide a visual delay. And then instead of switching forms, you could hide the whole element after 3 seconds or 5 seconds, or when some other event happened on the page. So you might be able to use something like that to make it illustrate that things are happening. Don't panic.
Yes, don't panic. Yeah, well, that's actually, I was thinking about that, using it, but then also obviously that got me thinking about just generally load times.
Yep. So in the case that I'm illustrating, the this reveal is happening over the course of 5 seconds, and this is the termination that when also coincidentally 5 seconds goes by, we're refreshing the page. But if you were to change the script and just change it to some CSS that, for example, put display none on this whole element, it would just go away after that time. And then, so that would be just kind of time-based. And then I suspect you might be able to find some, well, so now we're on to another thing that we're trying to get better at with Bootstrap 5. There's a event on grid loaded that we're currently working on to get that an event when a grid finishes. So you could wait for on grid loaded and then hide the animation. So the animation would only take up time while you are actually waiting instead of some estimate of time.
Right, right. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Mark has his hand up.
Oh, I just wanted to contribute a little bit to the previous conversation about loading items on a page in the order in which you prefer. I want to throw it out there. I had some success one time before on a heavy page with lots of modules on it. I set the forms to load manually. And so when the page loaded, they didn't load. And then I had a form, I called it some kind of page controller. I don't remember, something like that. And it had a little bit of JavaScript that just opened them in the order that I wanted them to open. And I could put them in a sequence, do the important one first, maybe the background ones, where the ones lower on the page you can't even see would be opening second, third, or fourth, or fifth. And it worked quite well. Just want to throw it out there.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So Dale, yeah, you bring up another related topic. This display mode, does the manual display mode essentially defer until it's called?
Yes, although manual is probably the wrong setting because this says it chooses, I think this results in it opening when you click on a link. Setting it to manual is going to show you the code that you need to open it, right?
Yep.
And then I'm gonna refresh this here. This is anyway. I think if you say it manual, you're going to end up with a link. If you say in pop-up, then
No, actually the opposite. Pop-up
I
generates
think
the
it's
link.
okay.
the other way around.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
all right. Thanks for keeping me on track. So yes, manual, lovely. And yes, it does defer activity. You can prove that to yourself, for example, by looking at object inspect network. If you look at the network tab, you can see it does. There's some calls that take up some time, and
So again, all right, well, while you're doing this, another kind of question came to mind about loading speed. So I've got multiple tabs, multiple, grids behind each tab. And I want the first one, the visible one to show first, obviously, from a user standpoint. If I simply put in the second, third, and fourth, whatever the case might be, into the SQL that develops that grid, I put in a SQL delay. Let's say I put a 3-second delay in there before that, the rest of the SQL to load the grid, which would presumably be the heavy lifting. Does anybody have any thoughts as to whether or not that would essentially speed up the first visible grid?
I suspect it would not, or I'm sorry, it might. I'd be concerned about it because the grids are still trying to initialize, and they're still going to throw commands to SQL.
Yeah.
And tie up resources. So I'm not sure that would be the best. But where did I go with my but I really like Mark's suggestion. So if, for example, your main grid that you didn't if you didn't choose the setting, let's see what we have available. Yeah, so for your main grid, you might leave it initially visible. For your other grids, you could make them be manual, and then use that loading mechanism to trigger them. I wonder too, there's probably got to be a on-click event that you could wire to manually do what we should be doing when you switch the tab. So.
Well, yeah, that's actually quite interesting about using that combination. That has merit, I think.
You could probably do it with the JavaScript listener. So it was listening for a click on a tab.
Yeah. So that, yeah, show modules, or that's just a redirect. Okay.
So that is an interesting puzzle. I might try to find that, but that's really what we should be doing in the first place, right? Where those settings that I was pointing to earlier should be listening for when you click the tab, and I suspect you could build something to do that and only do it then.
Okay, thanks, Mark. I might want to chat with you about your technique after.
Darn, I was looking for that example while we were talking and I couldn't find it. We can talk.
Something else before we go on. So we did loading animations. I had a reason to do to get a bearer token from Microsoft. Would anybody be interested in seeing that? Or, I mean, I think it's a good technique for anytime you have, whether you want a bearer token, a Microsoft token, or any other bearer token. It's a good technique to be reminded of.
Yeah, I would.
Okay, getting a couple of thumbs up, so let's do it.
100%. This will be great.
So in my, let's see if I probably got logged out here. Nope. All right, there it is. So I have a workflow that says get Microsoft Access token. When I run it, the result is that we get this nice long token. We actually get a full response that has bearer, how long it lasts, and I think this is 3,500 seconds. And then you get the token itself. And I pull out the token here as a separate output. So the mechanism, I mean, behind the scenes, pretty straightforward script. Let's see, I made a note here, and yeah, so just reminding that the notes functionality is a great way to document stuff if you need to remind yourself. So it's lifespan in seconds is how long this thing is going to last. But it's only a two-step workflow. We're going to get the access token by doing a call to Microsoft. I've got all of my accounts and stuff in tokens, so in the parameters namespace. So we're calling it with the Microsoft account, and we're passing in the things that we need to. So we're using client credentials for a particular client ID, and what are we trying to, what is our scope, and what is our client secret, all this stuff. So this is a nice generic workflow that's just relying on information coming from tokens. And then what we get out of it is the access token. That's the output token name, which I'm then parsing in the access token into a output called token base. And so for our outputs, we had those two, token and full response. The token is coming from token base access token. So this is, we're pulling out that one piece that we need. And then the full response is everything in case we want to be able to consume from this workflow anything else that's coming from it. So this is the workflow that gets an access token. Every time that you run this, it gives you something that's valid for 3,500 seconds. And yet if we run it again, I mean, this time we get something ending in W9A. We run it again, we get something completely different. So we get a different access token every time. And yet we've got one that's we could use the same one for an hour. So that's where we go to using a workflow token. I have a workflow token called Microsoft Access Token that runs that workflow. And when it runs, it gives us this token. And notice I've got one, it ends in SELA. If I run it again, it stays SELA. That's because I'm caching the output. So let's see what it looks like. Once you have a workflow that returns a token, create a workflow token. So this token, it's called access token Microsoft. It runs the get Microsoft access token workflow and selects outputting the token response. I'm caching that answer. I know that I'm going to get a 35.99 seconds. I am caching for 3,500. So for most of an hour, the same token is going to get returned over and over again. And yeah, I don't have any options. So this Microsoft Access token, once it's been called, is going to return the same response for 3,500 seconds. So now now that I have a token and I want to use it, I've got this job over here, this workflow that is doing something with groups. I want, when I run it, it's going to go out to Microsoft and go get all of my groups. So here's the server recall calling to graph.microsoft.com, and my authorization, it's an authorization header that they require. I'm using the static value bearer, which they said, that's required. And then my token, Microsoft Access token. So the first time that this job runs, it's going to try to get that token. Because it's not cached, it's going to go run the job, run the workflow to go get a token, and then insert it into my into this header, and we're good to go. The next time that this thing gets run, it's going to use, this will have been cached. It doesn't have to go to Microsoft to get a new access token, so it just runs it again. So that's the pattern. Use a workflow to figure out how to get the thing, turn it into a cached token that you can then share among any of the, in this case, it's shared among all users. And so one user does this work, and now they have a token that can be used anywhere to talk to Microsoft. So just to kind of close the loop, if I go back to my workflow and run this thing, it's doing a whole lot of work but showing my groups. It's getting all this group information from Microsoft, and because we had already run that bearer token, it didn't have to go out and get it reauthorized. So that bounces around a little bit. Any questions about that?
It's a really solid pattern. I've used it also, and sometimes it doesn't, that people don't see that as a possibility, but it's a great way to
if you hadn't put that pattern into effect, then, for example, in here where I was going to use that, you might have to have a couple of steps in the middle that says, go get my bearer token so that I can use it here. And so this, so we could have called that same workflow and gotten the token and had it here as a local token. But what the pattern does is this is kind of getting called a little bit implicitly, right? Just the fact that you asked for that workflow token, you get the bearer. You get other work done. It's calling a different workflow but now it's being cached, and so you get that benefit.
Very nice, Dale. Very nice.
I've seen this used, for example, someone that's calling the Microsoft CRM to get same thing. You get the bearer, and it nicely isolates it, right? Your bearer token is done in one place in a workflow that easily maintained and all. And then I suppose I could show, I have these parameters. My Microsoft account is just static information inside of a token. So now all your management is right here. You can just come in and change your account and client. And of course, I can't show you my client's secret, or I'd have to change it. But get all that stuff in a nice place that's easy to maintain.
Hey Dale, is the token cached because that's the life of a token over at Microsoft? When you created that bearer token, does it live for X number of minutes, and that's why you cached it, as opposed to getting a new bearer token every single time you make the call?
Right. They're telling us when we run this thing, um, the response that they give back says this and this is in their documentation, but it says this expires in 35.99 seconds.
Okay.
So you can they're and this is a common pattern that when you get a bearer token,
Yes,
it tells you how long
absolutely.
it's going to live. So because I know it's a I'm sorry, I took a shortcut and I'm just caching it for 35.99 or 3500 because I know what kind of response I'm getting back from Microsoft. You could potentially, um, I mean, so let's a hole in this logic. If Microsoft started giving us a token that only lasted for 30 minutes, my token would start to fail, right? Because I'm caching it for an hour, they're giving me 30 minutes. So, but so long as they don't change their policies, this pattern is pretty solid. I so in my token where I defined it here, defining the cache for 3,500 seconds, you've got a lot of options there, right? If you wanted to be very conservative about it, well, if you're having trouble, you could just turn off caching and it would force it to go do it every time. We could, we're going out to 95% of the window, 35 seconds on 3,500 on 35.99. You could go 5 minutes or something, be more conservative.
The the programming technique, I suppose, is if you didn't cache it, you'd be getting a new bearer token every time. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
What's the harm in that? Now, I mean, I realize we're kind of drifting off of
No, that's perfect.
PAA, but we're kind of going into what Microsoft. I do this with Google a lot. That bearer token has been, the beast of my life for so long, and sometimes I just don't try and go the existence of the token. I'll just get a new token every time, and I just wonder who am I hurting when I do that.
Right. So it's just one more round trip. So it could be a performance thing, right?
Hmm.
You got to ask if we change this to zero, uh, it would no longer cache it every time that thing was being used. It'd still be a nice programming technique where you're just
Sure.
but it would every time you did it, it would run the workflow and run a server request and parse it out, and so it would just be if you were doing something that was lots and lots of
I get it.
calls, it could slow you down.
I get it. 100%.
And then as far as I mean, I don't think Microsoft cares that you ask 10 times versus once. It's not like they charge you anymore, but
Sure.
potentially you could. I think they expect that you're gonna. I mean, the reason they give a bearer token that has a time period on it is they expect you to not have to do that every time. So they're opening the door for you to reuse it.
So was getting the token itself, the bearer token, was that a challenge? Did you have to do anything weird on your server and set up hidden variables and you know,
No, the
or was it just make a call using server request? I didn't see that part, how you actually
yeah.
get the
So
bearer token.
it's right here. This is get the access token, and so this is following their API documentation, but just a simple server request passing the Microsoft account and the API endpoint that does it.
Okay.
And
So those credentials that you had stored in my tokens, that's what's giving you the clearance to go ask for a bearer token.
right, so everything is happening right here in this one server request. You calling a
Hmm.
particular URL, and we're doing a post, and this is where those settings get consumed. So the Microsoft client, client ID, and client secret are all happening here. So this
Right.
one call gives us the bearer token, but it's going out and using these tokens so that they're not embedded into the action itself, but over in tokens.
Yeah. So getting the bearer token from Google is a bit more complex than that, unfortunately. At least it has been for me. And
And
I know you and I have had talks about this in the past, how to grab that bearer token is
And yet at the end of the day, I suspect that could be turned into a workflow, one workflow
Mhm.
that gets a bearer token. And if you can do that, then doing a workflow token, that was
right. Well, very nice work. I love that. That's awesome.
yeah, one by doing a
And you might want to turn your cache back on.
yeah, no, I didn't. I never turned
Oh,
it
you
on.
did. Okay, good. Yeah.
So now I'm going to go do a complete turn and just, oh, no, Jim, please play through. What do you got?
Well, just an add-on to Jerry's question or response to Jerry's question. On our Google, I have a client we're doing some Google requests to their very low volume account. So when we had it set to go get the token each time, we ran into throttling issues. So by caching it, we got twice the throughput because we weren't making the same number of calls.
Very good. So that there is can be a penalty, throttling. I forgot throttling. Okay, so I'm going to take my last couple of minutes here to point out I am a big fan of Microsoft Power Toys. And for example, it's stuff like this that being able to put in a bullseye cursor, or stuff like this where when you click, single click is giving a green dot. So if I'm recording things, right click is giving a yellow dot, which is kind of nice. There's some other very nice features, one of which is extracting texts from images. So this one, I have these things over here. I think, well, if they were images, I don't know, but this is going to give me extracting text from images, and sometimes better than others. But you would be surprised at how many people send me screenshots of error messages, and I have to type all those again in order to research them. So or not type them because I'm too lazy, but being able to capture them that way is good. There's also a where's my mouse currently functionality, so a little spotlight on that. If you're trying to find where your mouse pointer is, there's a jump. I'm in the world of 3 screens now, so I've got, if you want to jump your mouse to a particular spot on a particular screen, you can do that. So there's just all kinds of good things that are hidden in Microsoft Power Toys. And if you're not using them, it's worth your effort to see what's
I'll
there.
chime in and say there's a feature that'll show you the height and width of anything you're hovering over. And I like that one too.
There's a color picker.
Good. Yep.
One of the ones that I use all the time is a screen snap. So for example, I can define my own zones on where I want things to snap to. And if you like to put the same things back in the same place so you're not always wondering where your windows are, that's a neat functionality too. So, all right, I am going to spin my way all the way to the end here. We've reached our hour. Thanks for spending your hour with the Low Code Campfire and the Plant and App team. We will be going into our Afterglow segment in just a minute, and we'll do it all again next Friday. Thanks, everyone.